everyone, welcome back to Biophilia, your all-time study mate. Today we are going to continue with the fourth part of the chapter, that is human health and disease. If you get some help after viewing this video, then don't forget to like, share and subscribe to our amazing channel Biophilia. So since the last three videos we had been discussing about lot of diseases. So first part of the video we saw about the bacterial diseases. Second में हमने देखा about viral diseases. The third one we had seen about the protozoans which were causing diseases like malaria and amoebiasis. We also saw about diseases caused by helminths. And then we finally ended the third part of the video by understanding the fungal diseases. So ये सारे diseases जो भी cause हो रहे थे, to fight against these disease causing organisms is nothing but called as immunity, जो हम आज ये वीडियो में cover करेंगे. So overall you can say immunity is going to be the ability of the host to fight against these disease causing organisms. और disease causing organisms को क्या बोलते हैं? You call them as pathogens. So once the host, that is in the case of maybe humans or animals, when it is going to fight against the pathogens, that is called as immunity. So immunity हो सकता है of two types. Either it can be innate, that is if it is coming from your birth, that is inborn, or if it is acquired, that is coming after birth. So depending upon that, there are two types of immunity on when it is going to be gained. So now here we see about the first kind of immunity, that is innate immunity. So innate immunity जो होती है, it is called as a inborn immunity because it is going to come from the time of birth. And from the time of birth, what is going to be provided? Different types of barriers will be provided so that no pathogen can enter into the infant's body. And since it is just a barrier, एक barrication है, and that barrication is non-specific because it is not being specified कि okay, for this particular pathogen the barrier will be functional. It is going to be functional for each and every kind of infection, and for that reason, since it is not specific against a single type of pathogen, it is called as a non-specific type of defense. So now let us understand that what are the different kinds of barriers which are going to help the newborn infant to have the immunity against all those infections. So the first kind of barrier is going to be the physical barrier, and physical barrier होता है, that means it is literally a partition between the external and the internal environment, and that such physical barrier is the first, that is skin. So skin is the main barrier जो बाकी के external environment से pathogens की entry को बचाएगा. Along with skin there are different kinds of mucus coating epitheliums like in the respiratory tract. So nose के areas में जो mucus coating होता है, या gastrointestinal tract में जो भी mucus होगा, या urogenital tracts में जो भी mucus coating होगा, all that sticky mucus is going to help in trapping of the microbes so that they do not enter into the body. So this skin and mucus coating, that is the physical barriers, are going to be the first one who would be trying to stop those antigens to enter into your body, and for that reason it is called as first line of defense. So this is very important to remember, it is called as first line of defense. And if this first line of defense is failing to stop the different kinds of microbes to enter into your body, then different kinds of barriers would be going to stop the microorganism. But सबसे पहले कौन रोकने की कोशिश करेगा? It will be always the physical barriers who would be stopping the entry of the different kinds of microorganisms. The physiological barriers are going to be including different kinds of chemicals that might be secreted in your body. So it might be acids that are being released in the stomach, it can be saliva, it can also be tears. So tears or saliva जो होता है, it is going to contain lysosomes which is going to destroy the bacterial pathogens. Very important, only bacterial pathogens will be destroyed. Whereas acids in stomach, since there is going to be a lot low pH, as the pH is going to drop, the survivability of the microbes can be difficult, and for that reason the acids in the stomach also are going to help in controlling the microbial activities. The third important barrier is going to be the cellular barriers. अभी तक जो हमने देखे, these were either chemicals that were released or the physical barriers, but now are the cells which are going to fight against all those microbes. So even if the first two did not work, then the cells will be coming into action. So these cellular barriers are going to include the WBC like PMNL. So what is PMNL? It is going to be full formed as polymorphonuclear leukocytes. So you write it down somewhere, so I don't have a bit space over here, so let me try. It is going to be polymorphonuclear, and that is for PMN, and L is going to be for leukocytes. So that is the complete full form for PMNL, and these are going to be having the neutrophils, monocytes and natural killer cells. So ये सब के नाम we had already studied in the chapter of your circulatory system, so you can go and check that videos as well, and that would help you to understand these in detail. So natural killer cells जो होते हैं, these are a kind of lymphocytes which will be producing perforins. So these perforins are going to create pores into the plasma membrane, and these pores are going to be, what are they going to do? They are going to take all the water inside, सारा का सारा पानी enter कर जाएगा, and that is going to cause lysis of the cell. एक सेल ऐसे होना चाहिए, ऑल द परफोरेंस हैव बीन कमिंग ओवर हियर. परफोरेंस आने की वजह से क्या हो गया, देयर इज गोइंग टू बी ड्रिलिंग दैट इज गोइंग टू ऑकर, सेल मेम्ब्रेन डिस्ट्रॉय हो जाएगा, और जैसे ही सेल मेम्ब्रेन डिस्ट्रॉय हो गया, all the surrounding water is going to come inside, and when the surrounding water is going to come inside, the cell is going to swell up, and once it is going to swell up, an entire thing will be filled with water surrounded, and then finally it is going to burst. And once it bursts, the pathogen as well as the tumor cells are going to be destroyed. And once this after bursting क्या हो जाएगा, उसका सिर्फ एक ऐसा नेटवर्क रह जाएगा, that is going to be completely eaten by the amoeboid shape like cells called as macrophages. So finally macrophages आके उसे engulf कर लेंगे, और ये पूरा का पूरा चीज़ मैक्रोफेजेस के अंदर जाके डाइजेस्ट हो जाएगा. So in that way these killer cells are going to function. Finally, the last kind of barrier we are seeing is going to be about cytokine barriers. Here they are going to include the interferons. हमने जो cellular barriers के natural killer cells देखे, it was about the perforins, whereas now over here we are seeing about interferons. So interferons are going to be secreted against viruses. So viral attack जब भी होगा, so viral diseases we have already seen. So whenever a disease is caused by virus, the infected cells are going to be protecting the non-infected, the healthy cells from the further viral infections. So जो infected cells होंगे वो interferons release करेंगे, and these interferons will be acting as communicators, and they would be telling the other nearby neighboring cells that okay, this cell has been infected, you take care of yourself. And once that is being released, the inhibition of the viral replication will start, so that all the enzymes that the virus needs to replicate, that production will be stopped, and that would be helping to control the viral diseases. So it is very important to know that the virus is not killed by these interferons. The only growth, that is only replication, is going to be inhibited. So क्या होगा, सिर्फ viral replication inhibit होगा, the virus is not killed by these kinds of barriers. So the second type of immunity is going to be called as acquired immunity. The acquired immunity जो होती है, that is going to be gained by the newborn after its birth, and this after birth immunity is going to be pathogen specific. So हमने जो innate immunity देखी थी, it was non-specific, it was not specific for a certain type of pathogen, but acquired immunity gaining after birth will be pathogen specific. So how does the acquired immunity exactly work? Is that when your body is first time experiencing any kind of pathogen. So pathogen सिर्फ first time enter हुआ है. During that time, whatever your body is going to fight against that pathogen will be called as primary response. So this primary response, since it is unknown for your body, वो एक अनजान चीज से लड़ रहा है, so that will be a low intensity kind of attack. सो आप एक ही एक ही क्वेश्चन पेपर जब फर्स्ट टाइम सॉल्व करते हो, सो दैट वुड बी डिफिकल्ट फॉर यू, राइट? दैट विल बी अ लो स्कोरिंग पेपर and the person will feel depressed. That means the person will feel sick. So that I was comparing with your paper and solving of it. So the person of primary response will feel sick, but जब same antigen enter करेगा into the same person's body, so that time what will be happening, the specific B and T cells will be working. So वो क्या बात हो गई, आपको same question paper वापस दे दिया गया to solve. During that time what will happen, your memory cells are going to help you. So these memory B and T cells are going to come into function, और जब भी आप same question paper देखोगे, there will be much more confident attack. That attack will be of high intensity, and this high intensity attack is nothing but called as secondary or anasthematic response, which will be a much more highly intensified, a high intensity attack. और उस time पे the body is going to clean smash that pathogen that is entering again into that body. So this was, I hope, understood very well by the question paper. अगर क्वेश्चन देख के जो आपको लगता है पहली बार में बहुत डर लगेगा, आपको बुखार जैसे लगने लगेगा कि अरे यार ये कौन सा क्वेश्चन आ गया. So that time maybe it might be a low intensity, but same question वापस आने पे when you have fought against it first time, second time उसी question को देख के you would feel happy, you would feel intensified, and you would smash that question and gain all the marks. So that is the same thing happening in the case of acquired immunity. So under the acquired immunity, we are going to see two different kinds of classification. एक classification जो होगा that would be having humoral immunity, and the second one called as cell mediated immunity. और second type of classification जो होगा that will be based on the active and the passive immunity. So humoral immunity जो होता है, it is going to be gained by because of B lymphocytes, and these B lymphocytes will be producing a lot many army of proteins in the response of the pathogen. So whenever any pathogen, any kind of disease causing organism is going to enter into the blood, जैसे ही ब्लड में आके एंटर करेगा, वो किसके इलाके में एंटर कर रहा है, it is entering the field of B lymphocytes. So the B lymphocytes will get alert, it will get activated, and it will differentiate into plasma cells. यानी समझो कोई एक इलाके में अनजान चोर आके घुस गया और वहाँ पे उसके क्या होगा, वहाँ पे उसकी पिटाई होगी. So that is nothing but all the plasma cells will be secreting a large amount of antibodies, and these antibodies will be smashing all that pathogen that is entering into the field of B lymphocytes, that is the blood. So blood में जैसे ही पैथोजन आया, B lymphocytes को पता चल गया. B lymphocytes कौन है, खबरी है. खबरियों ने प्लाज्मा सेल्स में डिफ्रेंशिएट किया, यानी उन्होंने अपने सारे नकली वस्त्र निकाल दिए, and they became plasma cells. They sent their police force, and all that pathogen had been smashed away. So that way you can produce some stories and you can understand how different kinds of immunity are going to function. So these B lymphocytes can also change into memory cells. So these memory cells will be used for the secondary higher intensified attacks. यानी जब एक बार ये B lymphocytes memory cells में convert हो जाएंगे, next time when the same pathogen enters, these memory cells will be telling the antibodies directly that okay, the pathogen had already entered, I know its strong points and weak points. According to that, the antibodies will be sent in huge amounts and the pathogen will be killed in no time. So that was about the humoral immunity. Humoral immunity क्यों बोलते हैं, because it is related to the blood. So related to blood, that means it is humoral immunity. So humoral immunity में as we had discussed that there will be release of lot many antibodies और antibodies release किस वजह से होंगे because of a antigen. So now it becomes important for us to understand in detail about antigen and antibody. So antigen जो होता है it is going to be how described, it is going to be described as anything that can stimulate antibody production. So I'll write it down, anything that can stimulate antibody production. So हो सकता है it is going to be some kind of bacteria or it might be some kind of virus, or sometimes we will discuss in detail in few minutes that sometimes it can also be your own body cells. So anything that is going to stimulate antibody production उसको बोला जाएगा antigen. So antigen क्या है? It is a kind of short form that is given for antibody generation. So antibody generation के short form को क्या बोल दिया? Antigen. So that is going to be a short definition to understand about antigen. So antigen तो अभी पता चल गया कि कोई भी आके आपके इलाके में घुसने की कोशिश कर रहा है, all that is going to be smashed away by your body. So that should not be entering into your body. So who is going to fight against it? It is going to be your antibodies. So antibodies are going to be studied in detail now. So antibody जो होती है it is going to be having two different types of chains. So antibody बनती किससे है? Antibodies जो बनते हैं they will be made up of 4 peptide chains, यानी ये proteins होते हैं, and these 4 peptide chains are going to be classified into two ways, two long chains and there will be two short chains. So जो long chains होती है they will be coming under the heavy category. These are heavy chains, और जो short होती है they will be called as light chains. So heavy chain को आप क्या बोलोगे? H chain बोल दोगे for short, and the light chain will be called as L chain. So okay, that is easy to remember. So heavy chain है तो how much weight does that heavy chain have? It is going to have a weight of 50,000 Dalton. How much the weight is it going to carry? 50,000 Dalton, whereas the light chain weight is going to be 25,000 Dalton. So DA is the short form जहाँ पे these molecular weight has been signified in Dalton quantities. So अभी ये तो chains जो होती है that is long and the short chain both are going to get connected. And how are they going to get connected? These are going to be linked. So chain linking, chain का एक दूसरे से जुड़े हुए रहना is going to be because of disulfide bonds. So again this is a very important question, how are they going to be linked together? The chains will be linked together by the disulfide bonds. So because of there are going to be two chains, that is two heavy chains, two light chains, उसकी वजह से the antibodies are going to be called as H2L2. What are they called as? H2L2, that is two heavy chains, two light chains. So that was about the theory of the antibodies, but exactly antibodies दिखते कैसे है? So the antibodies are going to have the two long chains which are going to be heavy. So heavy है तो उसे ज़्यादा डार्क करके दिखाएंगे. So that is going to be your two heavy chains, and these are also long enough, right? तो अभी ये shorter chains कहाँ होंगे? Shorter chains will be present over here, and these are also light, so you place it with only a single line. So these red ones are going to be your heavy chains, yellow वाले जो है these are going to be your short chains. So this antibody structure will be connected by what? It will be connected by the disulfide bonds. So disulfide bonds से connected होंगे, and these disulfide bonds are going to keep all the chains together. So that is going to be a kind of rough structure for your antibodies. So अब antibodies में दो regions होते हैं. The first region is going to be a variable region. So हर chain में, that is either it can be a heavy chain or it can be a light chain. दोनों भी chains के पास क्या होंगे? You will have a variable region and you will have a constant region. So जो variable region होगा वो अपने आप को change करेगा, and this change is going to allow to attach to the antigen. सो व्हाट इट विल डू, इट विल अटैच टू द एंटीजन, वो अपने आप को ऐसे चेंज कर लेगा टू द शेप ऑफ द एंटीजन. सो एंटीजन के साथ स्टिक कर लेगा एंड द कांस्टेंट वन इज गोइंग टू रिमेन as it is. So the constant one is going to become what? It is going to become the effector. वो आगे जाके दूसरे जो पकड़ के रखा है, दिस इज लाइक हथकड़ी, हथकड़ी में चोर को पकड़ के रखा है बट फाइनली इट नीड्स टू बी हैंडेड ओवर टू समवन. सो द इफेक्टर पार्ट विल बी द कांस्टेंट पार्ट और वेरिएबल वाले पार्ट पे क्या होगा, देयर विल बी द एंटीजन बाइंडिंग साइट. what it will be a antigen binding site. So that is going to be a short description about antibodies. So the entire perfect diagram can be seen over here in the photograph, जहाँ पे you can see different kinds of variable regions of heavy chain, you can see variable region of light chain, the constant regions, you can see the disulfide bridges and even the antigen binding sites. So whatever is going to be the reaction between the antigen and the antibody, so how is it going to be, the antigen is going to be say of this structure जहाँ पे एक arrow shape का है, right, this is going to be your antigen, ये body में enter करने की कोशिश कर रहा है and against it there will be antibody production. So antibody जो होगी, the antibody is going to be in such a shape that it is going to come and attach directly into that antibody. So जैसे zigzag puzzles होते हैं, so only that specific kind of piece is going to attach on that place. Similarly there is going to be the function of antigen and the antibody. So वो ही piece वहाँ पे fit होगा, या also you can say like lock and key mechanism, right, जैसे एक ताले की एक ही चाबी होती है and that is going to be the perfect key. Similar way is going to be for the antigen and antibodies. So I hope you understood about the antigen and antibodies in detail. So now there are going to be different kinds of antibodies. So antibodies जो होते हैं, they are classified as immunoglobulins. So immunoglobulin हो सकता है, it is a immunoglobulin G, it is A, M, E and D. Just to remember, you can remember it as a short form of gamete. What is it going to be? Gamete. So different kinds of antibodies are nothing but gamete. Gamete होता है, वैसे T हटा के D कर दो. So that is going to be your trick to remember different kinds of antibodies. So अभी G जो होता है, antibody G, that is IgG, is going to be having the most of the quantity. So ये सबसे ज़्यादा नंबर में मिलेगा, it is going to be maximum in quantity, right, that is 75% of the entire globulin pool. And what is the location of this antibody? It is going to be inside the blood and the action is going to be for what? To stimulate the phagocytic cells, to bind to the neutrophils, then opectinize. Now what is this meaning? It is meaning that whatever is going to be engulfed, उसके लिए उसको ज़्यादा रेडी करना, उसको ज़्यादा एफिशिएंट बनाना, for the phagocytes to come and eat up all the debris, उसके लिए ये IgG काम करेगा. And also to neutralize different kinds of toxins, this is going to help. Now what is the speciality of this antibody? That this is the antibody that can cross the placenta, and once it can cross the placenta, this can be given as an immunity for the newborn baby. So next is going to be IgA, which is the second largest in quantity, that is 15%, और उसकी location होगी mucus secretions of the respiratory and the digestive tract. It can be also the vagina and the colostrum. So वो उसकी location हो गई. And what is the action of it? The action is going to be to protect the openings of the body. So you can understand respiratory tract में nose is the opening, upper digestive tract में mouth is the opening, reproductive tract का vagina is the opening, and even for the newborn baby when the mother is feeding, during that time the colostrum is also going to be the place जहाँ से baby को मिलेगा डिफरेंट काइंड्स ऑफ एंटीबॉडीज। तो बेबी को कौन से दो एंटीबॉडीज मिलेंगे? IgG फ्रॉम द प्लासेंटा, IgA फ्रॉम द colostrum, which will be passed on to the baby. Next is IgM, which is going to be 7 to 10% of the immunoglobulin pool, and it will be expressed on the surface of B cells. So B cells जो finally plasma cells में convert करके antibodies release करते हैं, these are going to help in activation of the initial attack. यानी पहली बार जब पैथोजन ब्लड में आएगा, ह्यूमोरल इम्यूनिटी, once it is going to enter into your blood, these B cells will be getting activated and the antibodies will be released. So these antibodies are what? Those antibodies are nothing but IgM. IgE जो होगा, it is less than 1%, but even being less than 1%, it is going to be an important one which is attached onto the mast cells, and they will be playing the role in parasitic infection or even in allergies. So allergies का question बहुत बार पूछा जाता है that who is going to be the antibody that represents the allergic reactions. So allergic reactions में IgE is going to be functional. IgD जो होगा, it is going to be again on the B cells, and it will be activating and as well as suppressing the lymphocyte, and the speciality of it is going to be it will have two paratopes. So that was about all the types of different antibodies जिनको बोला जाता है immunoglobulins. So immunoglobulins होने की वजह से उसका short form आ जाता है Ig. So next type of acquired immunity is going to be cell mediated immunity. So cell mediated immunity में the major cell is going to be the T lymphocytes. So humoral immunity में it was B lymphocytes, but in cell mediated immunity it is going to be T lymphocytes. So that needs to be remembered. The T cells are not going to secrete their own antibodies, but they are going to help the B cells to produce the different kinds of antibodies. So what is going to happen when the bone marrow is going to give rise to immature lymphocytes? These are going to migrate to the thymus via blood, और जैसे ही thymus में जाएंगे, these immature lymphocytes might either mature as T lymphocytes and they will be migrating into the lymphoid tissue. जैसे ही ये different kinds of lymphoid tissue में पहुँचेंगे, and because of the tissue fluid or the lymph that is circulating entirely in your body, उस टाइम में if there are different kinds of antigens that have been identified, then the T lymphocytes will be trying to engulf those, and then finally the temporary basis दो antigen को पकड़ के रखा है, but finally who is going to fight against it? The fighting will be done by the B lymphocytes by producing antibodies. So that was about the cell mediated immunity. Now let us understand about the entire story of the cell-mediated immunity in much more detail. This is going to be a kind of a story जो play होगी यहाँ पे with different kinds of characters, and then what will happen, you will understand the entire cell-mediated immunity in much more detail. जो characters होंगे वो characters different kinds of cells का role play करेंगे, and that would help you to understand about the functioning and the series that happens in your body for this kind of immunity. So let's understand and complete the story to understand about this immunity. So सबसे पहले स्टोरी लाइन में ऐसा है कि जो घर है आपके इलाके में वो आपकी बॉडी है. सो घर में यानी आपके बॉडी में कौन से कैरेक्टर्स है या कौन से सेल्स रहते हैं. देयर इज गोइंग टू बी योर फादर हु इज गोइंग टू प्ले द रोल ऑफ किलर सेल. पापा की वाइफ है, दैट इज योर मदर, हु इज प्लेइंग द रोल ऑफ हेल्पर सेल्स, and the grandmother who is playing the role of suppressor T cells, and you as a small kid are going to play the role of memory cells. अभी आपके बाजू वाले घर में से एक नेबर आया है, and that neighbor is the antigen, right? So this is a brief storyline that I wanted to tell you about the characters of the cell. Now what is happening? The antigen, that is your neighbor, is very angry on you, और neighbor जो है वो सीधा आपके घर में टूट पड़ना चाहता है. The antigen wants to enter into your body to fight against it. राइट। सो एंटीजन, आपका नेबर आया है घर के बाहर, जोर जोर से चीख रहा है, चिल्ला रहा है, एवरीथिंग इज हैपनिंग एंड ही इज जस्ट throwing stones onto your house and everything is happening, राइट। अब ये सब होते हुए देख आपके घर में से, आपके बॉडी में से कौन आता है बाहर झगड़ा करने? द किलर सेल इज गोइंग टू कम आउट एंड द फाइट विल स्टार्ट। अब फाइट स्टार्ट हो चुकी है। अब क्या होगा? फाइट इतनी बढ़ गई है कि पापा अपने घर में से अलग अलग चीज़ें ले आ रहे हैं एंड ही इज थ्रोइंग ऑन टू दैट एंटीजन सो दैट द फाइट कैन बिगिन, राइट। घर में से अभी कुकर बाहर फेंक दिया, अपने टीवी फेंक दिया, सब बहुत बड़ी झगड़ा हो गया। सो ऑन द रोड देयर इज अ लॉट ऑफ फाइट दैट इज गोइंग ऑन बिटवीन द किलर सेल एंड द एंटीजन। सो एंटीजन अपनी तरफ से कुछ चीज़ें फेंक रहा है, किलर सेल कुछ चीज़ें फेंक रहा है। फाइनली द किलर सेल हैज़ pluck onto his collar and now it is the time that the killer cell is going to just smash away the antigen. So उस टाइम में क्या हो गया है? The elder member of the family, that is the suppressor T cells, that is your grandmother of the house, now is going to come out and try to suppress, is trying to calm down the killer cell so that अभी तक जो घर में के सारे चीज़ें फेंक फेंक के नुकसान हो चुका है वो नुकसान को रुकाना है, बिकॉज योर बॉडी नीड्स टू हैव सम सेल्स। अब किलर सेल है उसको तो बस लड़ाई झगड़ा करना है एंड एंटीजन को भी लड़ाई झगड़ा करना है। सो घर में से जो चीज़ें फेंकी है दैट आर गोइंग टू रिप्रेजेंट द डिस्ट्रक्शन ऑफ योर बॉडी दैट द किलर सेल हैज़ डन so that it can fight against the antigen. So it should not happen that entire house, that is entire body is getting destructed. So for that reason आपकी grandmother बाहर आएगी and she will try to suppress the killer cells. So वो suppression का काम कौन कर रहा है? The suppressor T cells which will try to inactivate the killer T cells. So अब क्या हो गया है? Killer T cells को बोल दिया गया है कि आप थोड़ी देर रुक जाओ, लड़ाई झगड़ा मत करो। तब तक what has happened? The wife has come out of the house and she had understood that now this matter is not going to be in our control. She needs to call someone. So helper T cells जो है, the helper T cells are going to be the wife which is going to call to someone. और वो call किसको लगाया है? The call has been rung to her brother. यानी जो वाइफ का ब्रदर है उसको एक कॉल लगाया गया है और वाइफ का ब्रदर कौन है? ही इज़ द बी सेल्स। सो बी सेल्स कौन है? वाइफ का ब्रदर जो एक डाकू गुंडा है। ही इज़ अ बिग डॉन हु कैन अंडरस्टैंड द फंक्शनिंग ऑफ द फाइट और वो अपने लोगों को भेज के वो सारा चीज़ें हैंडल आउट कर लेगा। सो जो हेल्पर टी सेल्स है उसने, दैट इज़ द वाइफ, शी हैज़ कॉल्ड हर ब्रदर that now my husband cannot function because the suppressor T cells have told that not to function, but still the fight is going on because antigen, the neighbor, has not gone into his house. So for that reason उसने B cells को यानी उसके भाई को कॉल लगाया है और भाई तो है गुंडा, गुंडा है, he is the head and what will happen? He will not come alone to help and come into the fight. What will he do? He is a big man, he can send many people. सो वो जो डॉन है, बी सेल्स है, बी सेल्स क्या करेंगे? बी सेल्स विल इंस्ट्रक्ट और स्टिमुलेट द एंटीबॉडीज। बी सेल्स एंटीबॉडीज को बोलेंगे यानी डॉन के आदमियों को बोला जाएगा कि नाउ यू गो एंड टेक केयर ऑफ द फाइट दैट इज गोइंग ऑन टू माई सिस्टर्स प्लेस। सो अब वाइफ जहाँ पे है वहाँ पे जो फाइट हो रही है वहाँ पे ये सारे एंटीबॉडीज मार्च करते करते आएंगे and now these are going to be fighting against the antigen and that will help the body to fight against this neighbor यानी एंटीजन के साथ लड़ाई फिनिश हो जाएगी। सो एंटीजन तो अपने घर यानी आपका नेबर अपने घर चला जाएगा बिकॉज द बी सेल्स हैव सेंट सो मेनी एंटीबॉडीज दैट नाउ द फाइट कैन बी फिनिश्ड ओवर हियर। बट ये सब चलते टाइम व्हाट वाज योर रोल एज मेमोरी सेल्स? आप छोटे बच्चे हो, आपको बोला गया था आप घर के अंदर बैठे रहो, बाहर आना नहीं, ये बड़ों की झगड़ा है। सो उस टाइम पे आपका रोल क्या था? यू एज सिटिंग एज अ मेमोरी सेल यू सॉ द एंटायर इंसिडेंट। कौन सा नेबर आया था, व्हाट वाज ही वेयरिंग, व्हाई डिड द फाइट स्टार्ट and what was the different kinds of steps that had been taken. You as a small kid could not fight at that time, but you were seeing and watching the entire event. So same thing if it repeats again, you as a evidence can be sitting over there and will tell about क्या क्या हुआ था. सो सेम टाइम अगर सेम आपका नेबर सेम एंटीजन आके बॉडी में कोशिश करेगा आके लड़ाई झगड़ा करने की, तो क्या होगा? मेमोरी सेल यानी जो सन है यानी आप हो, वो जाके अपने मम्मी को बताएगा कि मम्मी ये तो सेम वाले अंकल आए हैं बाजू वाली गली से लड़ाई झगड़ा करने, एंड लास्ट टाइम एज यू कॉल्ड योर ब्रदर द बी सेल्स यू सेंड द एंटीबॉडीज. So उस टाइम पे the killer cell will not be functional but directly the memory cells will tell the helper T cells to call and stimulate the B cells. और B cells को जैसे ही बता दिया जाएगा कि वो तो ही बाजू वाली गली का नेबर आया है, एंड जस्ट देन द एंटीबॉडीज बड़े बड़े गाड़ियाँ लेकर बाहर आ जाएंगे एंड ऑल विल बी अटैकिंग ऑन टू द एंटीजन. सो फर्स्ट टाइम पे हो सकता है कि सिर्फ 100 एंटीजेंस भेजे थे बिकॉज पता नहीं कि वो एंटीजन कितना पावरफुल है, बट लास्ट टाइम अगर 100 एंटीबॉडीज में से सिर्फ अंत में आते आते 5 बच गए. If 5 were left for the first time, for the next time when the call will be rung to the B cells, और उसको पता है कि पिछली बार सिर्फ 5 बचे थे, अब कितने भेजे जाएंगे, अभी 1 लाख एंटीबॉडीज भेजे जाएंगे. द अटैक विल बी इंटेंसिफाइड सो दैट द एंटीजन कैन बी स्मैश्ड एंड देर इज़ नॉट मोर, यानी आपका बहुत ज़्यादा नुकसान नहीं होगा आपके घर का यानी आपकी बॉडी का. So I hope with this a short story with different kinds of characters it was helpful for you to understand the entire scene about cell mediated immunity. So the different kinds of characters are placed over here, that is the helper T cells. So helper T cells क्या करने वाले हैं, these are going to stimulate the B cells. अब B cells कौन थे, वाइफ के भाई जो डॉन है, these were the B cells. So these are going to produce antibodies, यानी डॉन के आदमी आके killer T cells को भेजा जाएगा so that it can destroy the antigens. फिर सेकेंड टाइप कौन होते हैं सेल्स के, दीज आर द साइटोटॉक्सिक और द किलर टी सेल्स. यानी ये कौन है अपने स्टोरी में जो पापा है जो सीधा एंटीजन को देख के मारपीट करना शुरू कर दिया. So these killer T cells are going to secrete different kinds of perforins and these perforins are going to invade the cell membrane. Cell membrane जैसे ही तोड़ मरोड़ दी जाएगी सारा पानी एंटर कर जाएगा into the cell will swell and finally die. So that is the function of killer T cells. Suppressor T cells जो हमारी स्टोरी में दादी का काम कर रही थी, the suppressor T cells will be suppressing the function of a cytotoxic and the helper T cells. यानी वो पापा को भी बचाएगी कि लाइक झगड़ा मत करो, और वो वाइफ को भी बोलेगी that you don't call your brother, we will manage. But what will happen so that there is no attack against the same body cells. यानी अगर गलती से अगर ऐसे हो जाता है कि एंटीजन आपका नेबर नहीं है, इंस्टेड ऑफ दैट आपके ही कोई रिलेटिव है, तो उस टाइम पे रिलेटिव के ऊपर तो हमला नहीं होना चाहिए, बट इट शुड बी समवन हु इज़ आउट ऑफ योर फैमिली, दैट इज़ हु इज़ आउट ऑफ योर बॉडी, उसके ऊपर हमला करना है एंड नॉट ऑन द पर्सन और द बॉडी हु इज़ of your type. So that will be suppressed by the suppressor T cells. Memory T cells जो होंगे, these are going to be formed by activation of the T cells. They will remain in the lymphatic tissue, यानी वो आपके घर के ऊपर वाली खिड़की से झांकते रहेंगे. They will record everything. They will keep in memory कि क्या क्या चीज़ें हुए थे, and even many years after the first encounter of the antigen, अगर आपकी लड़ाई झगड़ा 5 साल पहले भी हुआ था with the neighbor, even if the same neighbor come back to fight, the memory cells can have that recorded, and then that would be helping to have a more intensified attack for the second time. So I hope with this little story and picture imagination it was helpful for you to understand the entire story about cell mediated immunity. So अगर आपको ये अच्छा लगा है तो please let me know. You can press the like button. You can also comment whether it was helpful for you to understand, and if it was then please let me know as you liked it. The next type of classification of acquired immunity is going to be the active immunity or the passive immunity. So active immunity जो होगी, it is going to be when the host is exposed to antigens, यानी असलियत में antigens उसके body में enter हुए हैं and then the antibodies have been produced, then that is called as active immunity. यानी आपके बॉडी ने सीरियसली कुछ काम किया है, कुछ मेहनत की है and then it has formed the antibodies. जबकि पैसिव इम्यूनिटी जो होगी वहाँ पे द रेडीमेड एंटीबॉडीज विल बी प्रोवाइडेड टू फाइट अगेंस्ट डिफरेंट काइंड्स ऑफ pathogens or different foreign agents. सो वहाँ पे आपकी बॉडी ने कोई मेहनत नहीं करी है, उसको रेडीमेड खाना यानी रेडीमेड एंटीबॉडीज मिल गई. So in the active immunity there can be two types, whether it is natural active immunity or if it is artificial active immunity. Similar case for the passive immunity. So ये table है that will be helping you to understand each and everything in much more detail. So natural active immunity जो होती है, so natural active, so we are studying about that first. So natural active immunity में the acquire of the antigens will be coming into your body for the first time. और फर्स्ट टाइम जब इन्फेक्शन हो जाएगा उसके बाद रिकवरी हो जाएगी बिकॉज द एंटीबॉडीज विल बी प्रोड्यूस्ड एंड वंस द रिकवरी हैज़ बीन डन, नेक्स्ट टाइम वो सेम अगर पैथोजन या एंटीजन एंटर करता है, एट दैट टाइम द इन्फेक्शन विल नॉट ऑकर बिकॉज जैसे ही अंदर आने की कोशिश करेगा अटैक हो जाएगा बाय द एंटीबॉडीज एंड द इन्फेक्शन विल बी फेल्ड. So the person who has been attacked by the different kinds of pathogen of diseases like of smallpox, measles और mumps, तो जो ये diseases से पहले एक बार अटैक हो चुके हैं, जिनको एक बार ये डिसीज़ हो चुका है, नेक्स्ट टाइम इनको ये डिसीज़ नहीं होगा बिकॉज ऑफ द नेचुरल एक्टिव इम्यूनिटी. इफ़ इट इज़ आर्टिफिशियल एक्टिव इम्यूनिटी यानी नेचुरली वो पैथोजन एंटर नहीं किया था, इट वॉज पर्पसफुली इंजेक्टेड इनटू योर बॉडी. सो एंटीजन को ऐसे पकड़ा गया और ज़बरदस्ती भेजा गया इनटू योर बॉडी बाय द use of vaccine. So vaccine, it can be nowadays you see about the COVID-19 vaccine. So COVID-19 vaccine हो या polio vaccine हो या different kinds of vaccine which are available, अगर वो vaccines यूज़ किए जाते हैं then that would be the artificial source of antigens. So that will be coming under the artificial active immunity. सो जबकि सोर्स ऑफ एंटीजेंस आपने ज़बरदस्ती इंड्यूस किया है बट स्टिल योर बॉडी इज़ ट्राइंग टू वर्क एंड फॉर्म द डिफरेंट काइंड्स ऑफ एंटीबॉडीज, सो फॉर दैट रीज़न इट विल बी कॉल्ड एज अ एक्टिव इम्यूनिटी. अब नेचुरल पैसिव इम्यूनिटी क्या होता है? द कोलेस्ट्रम विच विल बी सिक्रीटेड बाय द मदर टू प्रोवाइड एंटीबॉडीज ऑफ IgA या फिर द फीटस गेटिंग द एंटीबॉडीज दैट इज IgG फ्रॉम द प्लासेंटा. ये एग्जाम्पल किसका होगा? इट विल बी ऑफ नेचुरल पैसिव इम्यूनिटी यानी आपकी मदर ही आपको ये नेचुरली प्रोवाइड कर रही है एंड since your body is not preparing antibodies by themselves, it will be called as a passive immunity. So that will be the example for natural passive immunity. अब artificial passive immunity का क्या होगा? When the ready-made antibodies will be injected into your body. So जब भी injected type of word आएगा, it is going to be artificial. So whether if it is artificial injection of antigen, तो वो एक्टिव में आ जाएगा, और अगर आर्टिफिशियल इंजेक्शन ऑफ एंटीबॉडीज है देन इट विल कम अंडर द पैसिव इम्यूनिटी. So such of injection of antibodies which are pre-made into different organisms, such example is going to be anti-venom. So anti-venom हो सकता है that is given after a snake bite, or it can be also anti-tetanus serum which will be coming and obtained from horses. So this was about the second kind of classification of acquired immunity. Now we come to the disorders of immune system. हमेशा immune system जैसे है वैसे का वैसे healthy रहे in each and everyone is not possible because nature में there are different kinds of things that will be occurring. So the first disorder that can happen is called as allergy or hypersensitivity. So जब एक कोई person किसी भी फॉरेन सब्सटेंस दैट इज़ कॉल्ड एज एलर्जेंस इसकी वजह से इरिटेट हो रहा है, उसकी बॉडी का इम्यून सिस्टम रिस्पॉन्ड कर रहा है, दैट विल बी कॉल्ड एज एलर्जी और हाइपर सेंसिटिविटी. सो द कॉजेज ऑफ सच एलर्जिक रिएक्शंस क्या हो सकते हैं? बिकॉज ऑफ हायर हिस्टामिन कंटेंट कमिंग फ्रॉम द मास्ट सेल्स, वहाँ पे डायलेशन ऑफ द पेरिफेरी हो जाएगा, ब्लड वेसल्स और कैपिलरीज कंस्ट्रिक्ट करना शुरू हो जाएंगे एंड दे विल बी परमिएबल फॉर लार्ज अमाउंट्स ऑफ रिएक्शंस वहाँ पे. सिंस द डायमीटर जो इतना बड़ा होना चाहिए था, आफ्टर कंस्ट्रिक्शन इट हैज़ बिकम वेरी नैरो, बट उतना ही इनपुट आ रहा है उतना ही इनपुट आ रहा है तो क्या हो रहा है, सारा ब्लड बाहर लीक आउट करना शुरू हो गया है. So the fluid will be leaking out of the tissues, the blood pressure will start to decrease and that may cause the death. सो क्या हो जाएगा, सारा ब्लड सारा फ्लूइड बाहर आना शुरू हो जाएगा जिसकी वजह से इंटरनल ब्लीडिंग होगी. द ब्लड प्रेशर विल स्टार्ट टू डिक्रीज एंड जैसे ही ब्लड प्रेशर कम हो जाएगा, ब्रेन में ब्लड जाना या लंग्स में या एवरीवेयर देयर विल बी प्रॉब्लम्स एंड दैट विल बी अ कॉज ऑफ डेथ. So what are the different symptoms of allergies that need to be taken care so that the causes are not going to lead to death? सो सिम्टम्स में हो सकता है स्नीजिंग से स्टार्ट होगा, वाटरी आईज हो जाएंगे, रनिंग नोज या इवन डिफिकल्टी इन ब्रीदिंग कैन बी सम ऑफ द सिम्टम्स ऑफ एलर्जीज. सो समटाइम्स कुछ लोगों को ऐसे होता है लाइक दे स्मेल सम फ्लावर, फ्लावर का पोलन ग्रेन आपके नाक में चला गया एंड दैट इज गोइंग टू बी द रीज़न फॉर एलर्जीज. कुछ लोगों को लैक्टोज की एलर्जी होती है, दे कैन नॉट डाइजेस्ट द मिल्क प्रोटीन लैक्टोज. सो लैक्टोज जैसे ही आपकी बॉडी में आता है देयर विल बी ह्यूज रिएक्शन अगेंस्ट इट, दैट इज़ नथिंग बट अ एलर्जी. कुछ लोगों को सोयाबीन की एलर्जी होती है, सम पीपल हैव एलर्जीज ऑफ पीनट्स. So there are different kinds of allergies that can be present onto a person and such symptoms can be seen. So these all things that causes the allergy will be called as allergens. सो एलर्जेंस बहुत सारे डिफरेंट टाइप्स के हो सकते हैं एंड दैट कैन बी टेस्टेड आउट विद द एलर्जी टेस्ट. आपको बहुत सारे जो कॉमन एलर्जेंस होते हैं उसको आपको रिएक्शन देखी जाएगी एंड टू विच योर बॉडी रिएक्ट्स, दैट विल बी प्रिवेंटेड ऑन टू योर डाइट और यू विल बी रिस्ट्रिक्टेड टू गो नियर टू दैट थिंग. सो ट्रीटमेंट क्या हो सकती है अगर किसी को अनजाने में एलर्जी हो जाती है. Then there can be drugs like antihistamine, there can be drugs of adrenaline or even steroids which can be provided so that the symptoms can be reduced immediately. So the second disorder that can happen regarding the immune system is going to be autoimmunity. So higher vertebrates में एक memory based acquired immunity होती है. So as we saw there are going to be memory T cells जो हमेशा याद रखते हैं कि exactly what sort of antigen had been come to fight against your body. So once that memory based has been recorded, the immune system is going to have the ability to differentiate between the foreign organisms from the self cells. यानी आपके relatives कौन है और बाहर के आपके फैमिली के बाहर से कौन आया है. You can understand that very well if your immune system is normal. So this condition is for normal. अब नॉर्मल कंडीशंस में क्या हो जाएगा, द बॉडी इज नॉट गोइंग टू बी एबल टू डिफ्रेंशिएट बिटवीन द सेल्फ एंड द नॉन सेल्फ सेल्स. सो हो सकता है कि कुछ टाइम पे बिकॉज ऑफ जेनेटिक रीजन्स और फॉर सम अननोन रीजन्स एज वेल your body will start to attack onto your own cells, and once this happens there will be a disease that will be called as autoimmune disease. So autoimmune disease में होता ये है कि the body's immune system is going to fail to recognize the self and the non-self और उसकी वजह से वो खुद के body cells को ही, खुद के relatives को ही मारना शुरू कर देगा. So that is going to be the condition, and in this condition you cannot stop, you can just provide some medication so that your immune system gets suppressed. That will be called as immunosuppressants. So immunosuppressants provide किए जाएंगे जिसकी वजह से the cells will not be attacking onto the different kinds of own cells. So as we were discussing about the autoimmune disease, तो autoimmune disease में आप ही के body cells में से कुछ cells antigens बन जाएंगे which will be contributing to produce antibodies. So such cells that can be the RBCs. तो RBCs अगर auto antigen बन जाते हैं then the disease will be called as chronic anemia. Why? Because once the antigens are going to be RBCs, antibodies सारे RBCs के ऊपर आके अटैक करेंगे और RBCs will be destroyed, and once the RBCs are destroyed it will be called as anemic condition और उसकी वजह से autoimmune disease का नाम हो जाएगा the chronic anemia. If अगर muscle cells are undergoing formation of autoantigen then the disease will be called as myasthenia gravis. वहाँ पे muscle cells काम करना बंद कर जाएंगे And if the autoimmune cells are the liver cells, तो liver cells में livers को damage कर दिया जाएगा, and that will be considering as a chronic hepatitis. So there are many more kinds of autoimmune diseases like insulin dependent diabetes, it can be Addison's disease, it can be ulcerative colitis, it can be rheumatoid arthritis, and also Hashimoto disease. So Hashimoto disease जो होता है, it is going to be the attack onto the thyroid cells. तो thyroid gland जो होता है, अगर उसके cells के ऊपर attack होना शुरू हो जाएगा, as the attack was on RBCs और muscle cells और liver cells, वैसे ही अगर thyroid gland के cells के ऊपर attack हो जाएगा, that is going to be called as a Hashimoto disease. Now as we saw about different kinds of immunity, तो immunity provide करने के लिए कौन होता है? So those will be the lymphoid organs. So these organs are going to get originated and maturation along with proliferation of the lymphocytes is going to occur. So lymphocytes में हो सकता है you have your B lymphocytes and you have the T lymphocytes. B lymphocytes will be undergoing the humoral immunity, और T lymphocytes जो होंगे they will be undergoing the cell mediated immunity. So this is very important कि lymphocytes जो है वो produce हो जाए, and these organs are nothing but going to be the origination, maturation and proliferation of these lymphocytes. So there are two kinds of lymphoid organs. The first is the primary, second is the secondary. So one by one we will discuss them in detail, that will help you to understand the difference. So primary lymphoid organs जो होते हैं, these are the organs which are going to produce the immature lymphocytes, or immature lymphocytes will be differentiating into antigen specific lymphocytes. These will be also providing the microenvironment so that these can develop, these can mature and then can be migrated to the secondary lymphocyte organs. So ये कौन से ऐसे organs हैं जो immature lymphocytes को produce करेंगे? So the first one is going to be the bone marrow. So bone marrow जो है, it is going to be the main lymphoid organ जहाँ पे production होगा, and this production will be the site where the B lymphocytes are produced. So production किसका होगा? Only the B lymphocytes will be produced in the bone marrow. So याद रखने के लिए आप ऐसे याद रख सकते हो that bone marrow start होता है B से, और किसका production होगा? B lymphocytes का production होगा. The second primary lymphoid organ is going to be thymus. So thymus में it is going to be a lobular organ जो हार्ट के पास होगा beneath the sternum, and it is quite large at the time of the birth, पर जैसे ही time आपकी लाइफ टाइम बढ़ती जाएगी, it is going to reduce in the size, and at the time of puberty it will become very smaller in size. So this thymus का एक important है कि during the time of birth it will be a big organ, और जैसे जैसे puberty पास में आएगी the thymus gland will shrink and it will reduce in its size. So reduction in the size is a very important point to remember about thymus. Second important point of thymus, that is it is the site of T lymphocytes maturation. यहाँ पे B lymphocytes mature हुए थे, that was bone marrow, but the T lymphocytes are going to mature in the thymus. So similar trick, T for thymus, T for T lymphocytes. So B में B mature करेगा, T में T mature करेगा. So thymus now also has some different names. So thymus के लिए एक नाम होता है that will be called as throne of immunity, because it is going to be maturing the T lymphocytes. So it is called as throne of immunity, or it is also called as training school of lymphocytes. What is it called as? Training school of lymphocytes, because यहाँ पे maturation होगा of majority of the lymphocytes. So training school बोल दो या उसे primary school बोल दो, both are going to be the same type. So T say throne, T say training, T say thymus. So that is going to help you to remember entire things about the primary lymphoid organs. The secondary lymphoid organs are going to be the ones जहाँ पे primary lymphoid organs में maturation हो गया of the B lymphocytes and the T lymphocytes. So after maturation these will be moving into the blood vessels में या फिर lymphatic systems में जाएंगे and they will be reaching into the secondary lymphoid organs. Once these reach the secondary lymphoid organs, and this will be interacting with the different kinds of antigens, और फाइनली दे विल बी कमिंग इनटू द वर्क फील्ड जहाँ पे वो लिटरली एंटीजेंस को फेस करेंगे. सो नाउ हियर दे विल ऑल्सो प्रोलिफरेट एंड इवन डिफरेंशिएट टू बिकम द इफेक्टर cells. So effector cells are going to come and attach onto the constant chain of the antigens. So that we had seen that what is a effector region and what is the antigen binding site. So antigen binding site पे antigen attach होगा और effector site पे the effector cell will get attached, and that way the entire antigen and antibody structure will be formed. And that entire structure यानी कैसे होगा, बीच में होगी आपकी एंटीबॉडी. सो लेट मी शो यू टू यू. सो ये आपके बीच में ये एंटीबॉडी हो गई. ग्रीन वाली कौन है, एंटीबॉडी है. यहाँ पे रेड से योर एंटीजन हैज़ कम विच हैज़ गॉट अटैच्ड इनटू इट, राइट. ये एंटीजन है, बीच में ग्रीन वाला एंटीबॉडी है. एंड नाउ दिस इज एंटीजन एंटीबॉडी बाइंडिंग साइट. यहाँ पे क्या होगा, यहाँ पे होगा योर इफेक्टर cell. So effector site पे the effector cell will be coming and that will be attaching onto this site. So this entire structure that is along with the antigen, antibody and the effector cell will be engulfed. और ये engulf कौन करेगा, engulfed by the macrophages. So by this way the entire antigen is going to be destroyed into your body by the help of engulfing of the macrophages. So तो यहाँ पे जो secondary lymphoid organs है, these are going to be the spleen. So spleen is a large bean shaped organ which is going to be mainly consisting of lymphocytes, phagocytes and large number of RBCs. So large number of RBCs होते हैं because spleen is going to be called as graveyard of RBCs. यानी जो भी RBCs का शेप सही नहीं है या हीमोग्लोबिन कंटेंट सही नहीं है या because of some reasons these died because of natural death or because of some disease, all these will be going to the spleen और spleen में इनको destroy किया जाएगा. That is, that becomes the graveyard of the RBCs. So that is very important once you understand the organ that is spleen. फिर आते हैं सेकेंड टाइप ऑफ सेकेंडरी लिम्फोइड ऑर्गन्स दैट इज लिम्फ नोड्स विच आर सॉलिड स्ट्रक्चर्स. वो बहुत सारी जगहों पे होते हैं थ्रू आउट योर लिम्फेटिक सिस्टम्स एंड दे विल बी सर्विंग टू ट्रैप द माइक्रो ऑर्गेनिजम्स. और टेम्परेरी जब तक कोई मैक्रोफेज आता नहीं है तब तक वो एंटीजन को वहाँ पे पकड़ के रखेंगे. The third is going to be MALT, which is going to be a very important point to remember as per the questions. So MALT का full form होता है Mucosa Associated Lymphoid Tissue. So this full form is also very important. And another very important point is how much percentage does it constitute. So it is going to constitute about 50% of the lymphoid tissue. It is a very important question. ये बहुत बार पूछा जाता है. So you need to remember about MALT, which is a secondary lymphoid organ, and it will be diffused all over the places of the mucosal lining. So हो सकता है वो respiratory tract में हो, digestive tract में हो या urogenital tract में हो, and entirely it would be consisting of 50% of the lymphoid tissue. So that was all about the secondary lymphoid organs. So now we are at the position जहाँ पे you can answer different kinds of questions. So here are some questions for your model कि अगर आपने वीडियो को अच्छे से देखा है, that would help you to answer these questions, as well as you can answer many more questions that would you be provided with. So this will be sufficient for today to understand about immunity. So you can solve these questions and let me know your answers in the comment sections down below. You can also place some very interesting questions that you find that you feel to share with other people on this channel as well. So you can do that as well, and that would help you to maintain a very good family on our channel. So that was all for today's video. We will come back soon with the another video of this chapter. Till the time, if you liked, then don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our amazing channel. Till we come back soon, keep smiling, keep studying. Bye bye, everyone, for now. Thank you.